Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot for June 10th. So, yesterday was the funeral for George Floyd. I've spoken about this before. The situation now in the United States in terms of, police brutality, Black Lives Matter, that whole injustice system has finally hit, critical mass. And when it hits critical mass, the momentum just picks up speed and picks up speed. And that's what you can anticipate going on, certainly in that arena, for a while. There's going to be a lot of city mayors and a lot of police forces who are really going to have to start coming to terms with some of what has been allowed to go on versus, frankly, what's going to be tolerated going forward. So, it feels sometimes that the karma of the United States moves very slowly. How many years ago was it? I mean, this thing's been going on for 400 years, but I mean, it was what, the 60s? When there was some headway made, and then it just sort of seemed to just go into a very slow evolution since then. So again, this is a time where it has picked up speed, and hopefully we can get some good reforms going on. And again, you know what, this is the interesting thing, is he has not only impacted your country in a really dramatic way, but he is also causing other countries, other mayors and cities and towns to take a good look at what's going on in their own backyard. And so, you know what, you can't, that's a good thing, right? That's just simply a really good thing. Okay. I want to take a look at what's going on specifically kind of with Trump and his sort of mental state this week. Ever since that disastrous, the economy's doing amazing, and this is a great day for George Floyd. We haven't seen him. It's kind of gone quiet. I guess maybe somebody probably really finally made him understand that he needed to stop talking. So I want to see what's going on there. And then let's see what else we get to today, if anything. Oh. Hang on. Come on down. I have a question. And this is the one that flew out, the Knight of Swords. So I'm actually going to just leave that there. Trump current state, Trump current state, Trump current state. Okay. Alrighty. So there's a lot of energy being put into trying to get I almost want to say, never mind the presidency, the re-election campaign, because honestly, that is their highest priority right now, as pathetic as that is. Trying to get that thing back on track and get it moving forward. The problem is that he doesn't want to play ball. He wants it his way or no way. He wants to be able to spout off and say whatever he wants, and he wants people running around behind him fixing it, because again, is that not the story of his life? He makes a mess and somebody else has to go behind him and clean it up. And so he's not being very receptive, let me say it that way, to whatever suggestions and ideas are being put in front of him. He's not responding well to them. Part of the reason for that is that there are a lot of things about him, about Trump himself, that he really does prefer to keep private and quiet, and he really believes that a lot of this is nobody's business. But what that covers, okay, what that's that public part that you see where he, it's none of your business. I don't need to show you this. I don't need to do that. All that is sort of the camouflage that goes around the deeper fears, worries, and concerns that are really quite internal with him. And they boil down to things like, don't laugh at me, don't ridicule me, respect my power, respect my strength. I am terrified that if you find out how weak I really am, the humiliation is going to basically be something I can't stand. So, sometimes it's very helpful to just reframe Donald Trump into the characteristics and the behaviors of a bully, because that is exactly what he is. And his behavior, I would venture to say, is probably almost textbook. The problem is, that unfortunately, he has sort of become the poster child, if you will, for how to successfully bully other powerful people. You have to assume that to some degree, these senators and these Republicans and these other politicians and these governors are powerful within their own right. Certainly, in order to get into those positions, they had to have some sort of an ego, okay? But what Trump has done is he has made bully fashionable. He just has, right? I mean, there's an uptake in it everywhere you look. I mean, I guess it's slowed down a little bit in schools now because nobody's in school. But, what he's done is he's taken that energy and he's made it kind of the behavior of the day. But at the bottom of it, he really, really is frightened of being found out. He's frightened people are going to know he's not very smart. They're not going to know they're going to know he's not very effective. They're going to know he's really scared. And because he's really scared, he likes to spend time in bunkers and or adding a ridiculous amount of additional fencing to the White House, something that no other president, I don't believe, has ever felt the need to do. But this guy does. And why? Why? Because people are protesting against racism. Wow. That says a lot, that he really, really has to be protected from that idea, that sentiment. Okay? He wants to just rush ahead. He just does. He just wants to keep pushing ahead because that's all he seems to know how to do. Well, all right. But the problem with that is that not only is the country, but he himself is in this tower moment. And the people, the emotions, the energy, the forward drive of the people is represented by the, Knight of Cups. They are looking for change, okay? They want things to change. And as the United States experience it, let me say it this way. As the tower moment happens, fortunes are going to change. Now, you have two tower moments happening almost simultaneously. You have the tower moment of the country, which can bring about a change in fortunes. So that would be viewed as positive, right? If what's going on now actually tears down some of those institutions, ways of being, thought processes that has accumulated to get to where we are right now, that would be an amazing thing. Alternatively, for Donald Trump's moment, he is also going to experience a wheel of fortune. I'm just not so sure that it's going to be viewed in the same way. It feels very much like the country is going to have a positive change of fortune and Trump is going to continue to wallow in this downward trend. And I have to tell you, there's behind the scenes, there's not really a lot of clarity about exactly how they're supposed to move this thing forward, because they have somebody who doesn't want to listen, somebody who's very rash and temper driven and ego driven, who at the bottom of it all is scared of any sort of exposure. And, they know they have to really, really guard where he is and what he's saying and who he's saying what to, because he will just fly off script and he will inflame what, so far, despite everything, has really been a very clear, respectful demonstration of the fact that the citizens of the United States have sort of had enough of this. So there's some interesting kind of dynamics going on around him. Now, I did talk about, I think in the last reading I did talk about the fact that that there was also going to be a lot of talk and spin coming out this week. And it feels like they're only going to be able to keep him quiet for, another day or two. And then, there's going to be some sort of something he does or says, and that frankly is just going to make it worse for him, but you can't stop him. Now, you've got this card that's about retreat, and so that's really interesting. It makes me wonder if on some level Trump is really almost like humiliated, especially because of the whole Bible photo op misfire, the whole running to the bunker situation. And this was the thing, right? If he had just kept quiet, people would have said, well, it's nice to know that when things get stressful outside of the White House, the Secret Service jumps in and they secure the president. Whether we like him or not, that's what should be done. But no, he has to come out and talk about teeny weeny little periods of time and inspecting the bunker, and he just made himself look like a fool. So there is this little bit of retreat going on, but I have to tell you, it feels very much like as if the communication, the spin, the nonsense is really, really going to start again. Yeah, this is the thing, right? The information that he's getting, particularly with regards to Joe Biden, particularly with regards to polling and stats, it's not looking good. And he thinks that the economy is going to snap and bounce back, and it's going to erase everything that has happened. Well, this is the thing. I don't know how you erased almost, 110,000 deaths. I don't know how you erase police brutality being exposed and your role in really firing up the right wing. I don't think a strong economy is going to save your butt. And furthermore, let's not be at all convinced that the economy is going to continue in an upward motion, okay? This Knight of Pentacles, honestly, is looking a little bit ominous to me. And so is it possible that, yeah, it goes up and then there's another type recession, depression, crash? Sure, it's absolutely possible, because the fact is that everything right now is incredibly unstable. And so, what is today is not necessarily next week. Okay. But he's going to, jump on and try to make that his entire campaign. And unfortunately, some of the stuff, the balls and chains, literally, of his behavior, of his ability, of his ideas, he's going to drag them around, literally like a ball and chain, into this election. June really is going to go down as an incredibly difficult month for Trump, and the people around him kind of know that, and they can't kind of get him to stop yelling and screaming and listen, because again, Trump's response to this kind of situation is to yell and scream. It's not my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. I was ill-advised. I was misinformed. I was given the wrong numbers, stats, whatever it is. And so he's really busy being really aggressive behind the scenes, and he's getting pushback. He's getting pushback from, his generals. He's getting pushback from his own staff. He's getting pushback from his campaign people, because this really is, it's that like sort of slow moving bomb. It's like a bomb in when they slow frame it, right? So it happens very, very slow. That's kind of what's going on right now with him. So a lot of volatility kind of behind the scenes, a few attempts to try to spin the story, change the story, whatever. But I just don't see it going all of that well for him. I think that he's really stepped in a lot of muck, and he's not going to be able to just get it off of his shoes. The information is going to continue to come out about a lot of things. It's going to come out about how volatile he is. There's going to be more information coming about his behavior behind the scenes, or meetings that we haven't heard about where, again, there was a lot of emotions, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of extreme. You're going to see, again, more people very quietly just shuffling away from him. And as I said, I think in the last reading, you're going to see, maybe not see publicly, but there are donors that are pulling back away from him this time around, especially. What has happened to him from sort of February, March, April, May, and here we are almost halfway through June, has not been good for him. It really, really has exposed all of the cracks, all of the weaknesses. And in doing so, it has also exposed the weaknesses of a good number of the Republicans around him. And, they're getting their wings clipped, right? Newspapers are not running their op-eds if they're saying something that invoking violence, like Tom Cotton, I guess, tried to do, or did. I'm not sure what the status of that is. They're getting called out more and more and more, simply because everything is sort of culminating in a picture that really indicates that, things are just simply not going well, right? I mean, they're just not going well. Okay, so, here you have, them trying to spin another story, them trying to put out new information, make it look different, change the focus. You cannot change the focus when you have the kind of big stuff that's going on in the United States right now. What is it? Like, I don't even know what percentage it is, but a whole bunch of your states, their numbers are increasing for the coronavirus. There are more and more peaceful protests going on all over the country, in these little towns, in these areas. It's not looking good for him. There's some stuff you just cannot spin, and he's finding that out. So this is what you have here. You have an out of control Trump, who is going to ultimately end up being disappointed. He is ultimately, on whatever level he is capable of, privately regretting some of the choices and decisions he's made. But the problem is that he's not very clever, and he's not well read. And so when he thinks something, if it in his gut kind of feels right, with no other information, no other input, it's going to be really hard for him to say, oh, maybe I didn't do that quite so well as I should have. but there's definitely areas where he is going to not be able to recover, okay? So if we're going to look at this, 5 of Cups, let's look at it this way. This is what he has lost. Supporters, donations, money for re-election, respect from those who at least, I don't know, if not respected him, tolerated him. And here you have 2 that remain standing. But because he's busy pouting, at this point anyway, he doesn't even see these. Now, make no mistake, I don't believe that these 2 things are going to be enough to, take him to the finish line. But there are some things, I suppose, somewhere that they could find to spin in a way that was favorable to him. But again, he's busy pouting because the whole world doesn't love him. And when things change at that level, they change really, really quickly. So a lot has happened since Martin Luther King. Some things improved, lots and lots stayed the same. It kind of, moved along. And then there was just one too many acts of police brutality and violence in very, very close succession. And the last, certainly George Floyd, but there have been others, and their names are just not flying into my head right now, so I apologize for that. But you all know the others who we have recently lost, again, because of this kind of behavior from the police. But man, when it started to change, whoa, did it change fast? Look at it in perspective. Almost, what is that? Almost 80 years, 75 years. Things sort of moved along. Some things got stable, like I say, some things not so much. But wow, when it hit critical mass again, look at what's going on now. So I think this is going to be a bit of a hard week. I do expect some volatility later on in the week. And I do anticipate that there's going to continue to be some information that is really not something that he wants to hear. And in some ways, the people around him don't actually know how to deal with or work with, because a lot of them are really inexperienced, right? Who is on Trump's election campaign that has a great deal of political savvy and know-how? I just don't think that there's that many. And maybe there are, but I just somehow don't think so. And so you have people who are in over their head trying to deal with a disaster, literally. A disaster of a presidency, a disaster of a re-election campaign. So I don't know that they just even have the political savvy to be able to pull this off. But of course, time will tell. We will see. But I think that there's a lot going on behind the scenes that probably, frankly, honestly, we're probably really grateful that we don't need to hear about, because it's exhausting hearing about what's going on. Meanwhile, so this is the interesting thing. Meanwhile, you have the Democrats very, very quietly, getting stuff passed in the House and moving things along. And yeah, it's going to go to Mitch McConnell's desk and it's going to die. But guess what? January 2021, all of that stuff goes to a new Senate Majority Leader. And if everybody does what they're supposed to do come Election Day, that's going to be a Democratic Senate Leader with a Democratic president. So all of the stuff that they have been quietly working on over the last couple years. All that stuff that died on McConnell's desk, well, you can bet it's going to move really fast through the Senate when they get that Senate majority. So, again, there is a strategy. I know it makes you guys crazy, but, it's like I said before, in some ways that Lincoln Project has really, really done the Democratic Party a huge, huge service, because they are able to do all of the sort of attack ads pertaining to Trump, and it leaves the Democrats the room to sort of, be firm and be strong and certainly be united. But it allows them to sort of stay a little bit above the fray. And as long as people stay above the fray with Trump, he really can't deal with you, right? Because you're not coming down to his level and being a street fighter. You're that person who is walking by saying, yeah, I thought about it. You're just not worth my time or my energy. And so that makes him crazy. And then that behavior gets turned into a Lincoln Project commercial. So there is kind of an interesting rhythm that is going on here. Okay. I just want to do a quick, like 3 or 4 card spread. I just want to get some, a bit of a heads up, maybe, if we can get some idea of what changes, or maybe how quickly things can change, or how significantly they will change, in terms of the overall, generally speaking, the overall reform of police stations. I know that there's a lot of this defunding idea going on, which, as near as I can figure, sort of means take money from the police departments and then put it into areas where the police departments really shouldn't have been having to deal with that. So whether that's homelessness or whether that is, mental illness issues, alcoholism, addiction. So I'm not sure, but I think that there's going to be some interesting shifts and changes going on. From a distance, I would caution everybody to not throw out the baby with the bathwater. Don't get rid of everything and then figure out that you left in your haste a bunch of holes that are now going to be really easy to get, for people to crawl through, or the law to crawl through. So let's just take a really quick look at police reform. I don't know if any of you heard this. Certainly viewers of MSNBC may have run across it. So yesterday, there in Houston, there was an interview that was done with Georgia's grade 2 teacher. Lovely lady. Exactly what you would think an elementary school teacher should be and look like, and nice energy, etc. And she said that, looking at that 8-year-old boy in her class, she could never have imagined that this would sort of be where and how his life would end. But interesting, she said, George was always really, really interested in becoming involved in police reform, the justice system, making it better. Think about that for a moment. Talk about a life purpose coming full circle. Because I'm here to tell you, when kids are little and you ask them what they want to be when they grow up, very often their answers are far more reflective, I think, of that soul purpose, because they're closer connected to it still, right? Reality hasn't completely told them that, life is real. So it's fascinating to me that somebody at that young age who really, really wanted to make a difference has made it. Isn't that incredible? Think about that for a sec. All right, let's just take a look at a quick. I want to take a look at future police reform, future police reform, future release. Reform. Sorry, my brain just went completely blank. It's been a lot of heartache. A lot of heartache. Okay. So, as of right now, as at reading the energies of right now, a lot of heartache. A lot has been stolen. A lot has been taken, whether that is people's dignity, people's freedom, people's lives, whether it has to do with attitudes that have really sort of taken, have been taken to the extreme, perhaps by some officers of the peace. A lot has been taken, been a lot of pain, but good news has arrived and reform is coming. You have two Knights. You have the Knight of Cups, which is about emotional good news, that kind of energy. And you have the Knight of Wands, which is about bringing forward communications and new ideas and new reform and moving forward on that energy. Yeah. It's time to stop this. It's time to stop the knives in the back. It's time to stop the distorted thinking. And it's time to stop the idea that people are so much different than each other. Okay? So again, you have good news coming, okay? You've got the Wheel of Fortune in a very good position. You have things that were in under shade coming to the light. So you're going to hear more and more stories going forward. People's eyes and ears are being opened. Those who were in denial, those who didn't see it, those who didn't think it was a big deal, they're starting to get some clarity. And there's going to be new information, new communications, new ideas. Do I know how long this is going to take? Nope, I don't. But you know what? Sacrifices were made to get this situation moving forward again. Unfortunately, it has taken the death of a few, more than a few people. But it's picked up the energy now. And ultimately, people are going to have something to celebrate about and feel better about. Alrighty, so this one's a little long, so I'm going to wrap up really quickly, very quickly. Thank you all for all of your support, your comments, your thumbs up. Information in the box below if you're looking for a private reading. And of course, thank you for the donations that roll in. They're always so unexpected and so appreciated. So I thank you for that. Until next time, take care. Be well. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.